Are you wondering if your data is truly safe with DeepSeek? Well, let's break down the realities of data security in the cloud. DeepSeek has sparked a lot of discussion with regulators and government asking if the app is even safe to use. But what's interesting is this contrast between government hesitancy and warnings and popular opinion, which is overwhelmingly positive, I would say, towards the adoption of DeepSeek, including it becoming the #1 downloaded app on the Apple App Store, knocking ChatGPT's crown. The US Navy and other branches of federal government are being very proactive in saying that they want to ban the use of DeepSeek. Indeed, there's been the suggestion of legislation that would lead to a 20-year jail time for anyone found to be using Chinese-based AI tools. Now, in the broader context, what does this mean about data security? Is data in the cloud secure? Besides with DeepSeek, is it secure from malicious actors? Well, let's have a quick look at the world's biggest data breaches and hacks. We can see there's just so much data that has already been stolen. This whole idea of safety starts to lose its meaning, and perhaps that's why people are not listening. The introduction of DeepSeek to the West has had a lot of people raising alarms about practices of data retention, keystroke tracking, and of course, censorship. But in the broad context of the past decade in the West, both in the US and in Europe, this is hardly anything new. Many instances of censorship, data retention, and illegal harvesting of data have been prevalent throughout the tech industry. Add to that not only has that data been harvested by many companies, that data has then subsequently been stolen. Indeed, no data is really safe as soon as it is uploaded to the cloud. It's very much like when you hear an commercial airline tell you that safety is their top priority. Well, the safest flight is one that never takes off. It has no chance of anything going wrong. And in the same sense, the most secure data is data which is never uploaded to the cloud. So in many sense, when we're uploading data to the cloud, there should be an expectation that at some point, either now or in the future, that data will no longer be secure. It will end up being public. Our digital privacy is definitely in crisis, and perhaps we've all become comfortably numb now to the relentless onslaught of hacks or inappropriate and illegal collection of our data and censorship across the internet. One particular data privacy incident that seemed to get barely any attention in the media and also was reported on in a way which downplayed it massively was the AT&T hack in 2024. This is where 73 million records were lost. Apparently, this is a lot of leaked data, if you didn't think so. But the media downplayed it as a hack that didn't include the recordings of the calls. Well, I would hope not. What could anyone do with knowing that person A had called person B? It's actually not very valuable data. Mainstream media really played down the consequences of this hack, which surprised me because anyone worth their salt in entry-level intelligence would know that records of calls between people help you to understand a network, to understand who are the key players, who are the most important people within a network. There's a tool called Analyst Notebook. This used to be made by IBM, and this is the industry standard for intelligence to understand how networks of people interact. So the idea is that you import phone records, maybe 72 million call records would be an exceptionally large database, and you can paint a picture of what are the numbers that are receiving the most traffic from who. You can identify different networks within society and understand who are the key players and who, if you were to remove them from the network, would have the biggest impact. Now, imagine this is used in national security and intelligence. The way you use that call data is you understand who are the people who are communicating between the leaders in an organization and the people on the ground. Those key points where data flows through, those are your ideal targets to remove, to break up any network of people who are trying to communicate, organize, or do something that you would rather they didn't do. And that for me is why that incident of 73 million records is particularly concerning because you can very easily paint a picture and understand all the networks which are potentially operating within US society. I can already hear the comments starting to ring in my head that this is completely different. With AT&T, this was not intentional. It was accidental. The data may have been left in an unsecured database, but it wasn't malicious. Whereas the concerns with DeepSeek are that it is intentionally trying to harvest data. The only challenge with this comes is when we look in the West at all of the intentional illegal data collection that we've been subject to, whether that's from training the AI or from tracking your location even when you've asked not to be tracked, or finally, when you're browsing incognito mode, actually it's not quite as incognito as you expect. And naturally, we start to question what data is there left that is actually still private about us. For example, this website is a great way to know or become more aware of different hacks that your details might have been a part of, different accounts that you've registered to, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or MySpace. This could give you some clues into accounts and companies that have known to be compromised where your details have supposedly been found. Perhaps what frustrates people the most in this is the duality that takes place. On the one hand, the UK government seems to be complaining about unencrypted traffic being communicated by DeepSeek, while at the same time making requests and demands of Apple that it creates a backdoor so that the UK government can go and access anyone in the world's encrypted data on iCloud and iMessage. This duality is what's frustrating. And there's that duality as well between ChatGPT and DeepSeek, where allegedly ChatGPT has taken vast swathes of the internet, of novels, of books, of artistic works to train their models. And now all of a sudden, the DeepSeek seems to have inherited or been built upon ChatGPT, that this is now a issue. Funnily enough, the debate has gone full circle. On Chinese YouTube, there's a whole discussion around when ChatGPT starts to think in Chinese, this must be an indication of OpenAI actually building its model on top of DeepSeek rather than the other way around. Overall, the mainstream media just isn't particularly honest and direct about what's going on here. If we're talking about our own personal data security and privacy, if the data's in the cloud, at some point, someone is going to use it or get their hands on it in a way that we don't expect, intend, or agree with. Talking about data security and privacy today without asking the question, is data in the cloud ever safe to begin with? Or the context of how much data has been lost and stolen about us already just completely misses the point. It's almost as if these discussions should have been happening about 20 years ago.